Hey everybody, welcome to Pop Culture Philosophers. I am Rockin Robbie Billups, and we have a very special treat for you today. We have a fantastic creator joining us today to talk about some of his recent work and maybe even a little bit of his past work. He is a writer, a producer, and of course a comic book creator. You know him from shows such as Marvel's The Runaways, also Winning Time, which was about the Lakers. Huge Lakers fan here, so this was very exciting. But also comic books like the recent release from Dynamite, Alice Cooper, as well as the smash hit Killadelphia. Please give a mighty warm welcome and a station to Mr. Rodney Barnes. How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing good. How are you?
Doing fantastic. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day, I'm sure, to come and join us on the channel tonight.
Happy to talk to you. Thank you for having me.
All right. Well, the first thing I want to do, this is kind of like my icebreaker, but I found out doing a little bit of research about you that one of your first Hollywood jobs was as a production assistant on one of my personal favorite movies, Blade. And is that true?
That is very true. That is very true. I was actually in a scene in the Blood Club. I was a huge bouncer, vampire bouncer, and you'd have to see me. It was so quick, but my job was blocking the door so that the extras, when the blood came on them, they wouldn't run out because they didn't know the blood was going to come.
They didn't know at all?
Some of them didn't. Some of the stunt people knew, and the core principals knew, but a lot of the rank and file didn't know. So yeah.
Can you imagine? Like what like you're just like, what's going on? You're freaking out. You just think you're coming in to do a fun little scene in a movie. Next thing you know, blood is running down on you.
Syrupy blood, syrupy red blood that you have to take a shower to get it off of you. Blood, not just water.
That's awesome. So how did you get involved in Hollywood, and what made you want to become a producer and a writer?
Well, I mean, I've always wanted to be a writer. I'm from Annapolis, Maryland. It's a small town. I never really saw a bridge between going from being in a small town to going to Hollywood. I never saw myself in that. So I tried a lot of things. When I got out of school, I tried to play basketball, I tried to play football, I tried professional wrestling. I tried a lot of different things because I'm a big guy. I'm 6'8", and I just felt like it would be something physical. That's how I would pay my bills. And then I went back to writing, and went back to school for real and started to work on movies in the Baltimore, D.C., Virginia area. And I ended up working on a movie, Major Pain, with Damon Wayans. And he took an interest in me and sort of set me on a path and how to do this. And it started to become more and more and more real. I ended up in LA and worked on a bunch of those movies, Bulletproof, Blade, Rush Hour 1 and 2, and a bunch of movies. And then got my break, and here we are.
That's awesome. So, and were you always into comic books as well?
Oh, yeah. I've loved comic books. I think the first comic books taught me how to read. I remember 4 or 5 years old. When I would go to a public library, I found a box of comic books, and it was something about, and they were like Neil Adams. It was like right around that early Neil Adams era, and the way he drew Batman and Green Lantern, that stuff just kind of grabbed me. And from that point on, comic books have been a part of my life. There's never been a period where there haven't been comic books.
What are some of your favorite comic books of the current era?
Something is Killing the Children. I think now it's almost like being a pro basketball fan now. Like when I was growing up, you had your favorite team. Like I love the 76ers because I love Dr. J. And now, because of free agency, you could be a Kevin Durant fan, but you don't know what team he's going to be playing for next year. Yeah. So it's not like you can go from Oklahoma City, you can go to Golden State, you can go to the Nets, you can go to the Suns now. So it's not that same romantic feeling of a team. It's more of players. So now I follow creators. You know, I'm a huge Scott Snyder fan, and Tinian, and, you know, all of the great Tom King, all the great cast of characters, mostly writers. I love so many artists, but I follow writers because it's what I do, and I admire it, and just a bunch of folks.
Yeah, there's some really great books out right now. So you've done some work for Dynamite in the past. Mm-hmm. You've done like James Bond. You did an Army of Darkness book. You did 1979, right?
Yes.
I love that one. I remember when I was reading it, I was like, this is like Ash and the Warriors.
Yeah, right? that was the joke. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that bit. So how did this Alice Cooper project come out? How did that come out?
Dynamite calls and they say, what do you know about Alice Cooper? And are you an Alice Cooper fan? And it was funny because my mother had this eclectic taste in music. So it was a little bit of everything. You know, you'd have the rock of the day, but you also had the R&B and just a lot of different types of music. And so Alice Cooper was in there. And plus he would come on TV from time to time, like on the Mike Douglas show or different shows. And he had the paint and all of the stuff. And it was always a horror suggestion. You know, that even I didn't recall him being in any horror films of that time, but he always within his music had that Ozzy kind of feel to him. And so I was like, yeah, I would love to be able to take a crack at seeing if I could do something creative with it.
Yeah, I said the basic idea behind this is almost like Satan wants to be a rock star. And so he wants to hit a very certain demographic, and he goes and tries to take the souls of every like rock star after like over 45 years of old or something like that. Yes. How did that idea
come? There was this movie about the crossroads and a blues singer way back when. And I think Ralph Macchio was in it, and he was playing a guitar against the devil. And because I'm always interested in Killadelphia, there's a lot of like devil talk and a lot of those things. But when I think of the devil, I think of ego. So if the devil decided he was going to be a musician, he would want to be the greatest musician that ever lived. So in the beginning, when he's playing for legends, you know, the souls of legends of, you know, Michael Jackson, Prince, all the people that are early in the book, you know, that's not how you become a legend. You don't become a legend by getting the appreciation of legends. You get the appreciation of the fans, of human beings. So he's got to come to earth and be that. But then when you come to earth, he's not the only one. There are other legends that already exist. And because he was playing primarily the blues, that's a demo. You know, that's an older demo. So now he's found his demo. He has his audience, but he's got to eliminate everybody that's sort of in the demo until he runs into Alice Cooper, who already has a relationship with the undead and the netherworld and all of this. So, you know, it's to me, it just sort of fit the idea of what Neil Gaiman did and his, you know, take on Alice Cooper. So I just wanted to stay within the tradition of that, but have some fun at the same time.
Man, I came across those Neil Gaiman Alice Cooper books not too long ago, and I didn't even remember them. Like I had a vague memory of them from back in the day, but I picked them up. I haven't dove into them yet. So are those, I guess those are totally worth it, right?
Yeah. Oh my God. Anything with Neil Gaiman's name on it is worth it.
Yes, absolutely.
But yeah.
Yeah. The Alice Cooper book is super fun. And I'm a big horror nut too. And so Alice Cooper always appealed to me when I was a kid because of the makeup, the theatricality of it and all that. And I remember he did like the song, I want to say it was Jason Lives. Like he had a song in Jason Lives. And then later on, I found out that he was in, what's the Carpenter film he's in? Prince of Darkness.
Yes.
Which I absolutely love that film. I think that's a brilliant, brilliant movie. when you were doing with like, are you a big James Bond fan? Because like with your work with Dynamite, you got Army of Darkness, you got James Bond, you got Alice Cooper, 3 very different properties. Are you fans of those properties, or do you have to do something to get into the vibe and tone of it?
No, I'm a fan of all of those things. I'm a huge Richard Matheson, Stephen King fan. And if you follow their work, they're known for being horror guys because I Am Legend and, of course, Stephen King with too many titles to name. But they write a lot of different things. It's like, certainly with Richard Matheson, because he did TV work and he did films as well. And, Stephen King primarily with the novels. But there are horror novels, there's mysteries, there's fantasies, there's love stories, there's all kinds of stuff. And I always wanted to be the kind of writer that was nimble enough that I could do a lot of different things. I wasn't just going to be pigeonholed to vampires in Philadelphia, that there were going to be a lot of different things. So the only way that you get better at those things is by testing yourself, by really challenging yourself when something is new. It's like, I've never done that before, but I do know what this is. I do have an interest in it. Let me take a shot. So I'm fortunate enough that people give me shots.
Yeah. A lot of your early work was done with like sitcoms and comedy, right?
Yeah.
So how is writing comedy different than writing something like a horror?
Well, comedy for me was kind of like a boot camp because there are 2 things that you have to do. You have to tell a story, but you have to tell a story where you're telling 3 to 5 jokes a page. So you have to keep the story moving, but you have to keep it moving with this other energy that's happening at the same time. With horror, you can really get more into a meditative state. It's not so much you're focused on the same agenda. The agenda really is, how can I highlight the protagonist enough to get people to fall in love with them, so that when I bring in the monster or the bad thing, that you don't want to see that person be hurt in any way. And hopefully you identify with that person on some level. So
yeah,
those are the 2 differences.
All right. I take it that you're a big vampire fan, because Killadelphia, obviously, it's about a whole lot more than vampires, but it kind of starts as like the easy pitch is like vampire book with like ties to like John Adams, right? And I reread the first book this afternoon in preparation for this, and what a great book. I'm a big fan of American history and like presidential history in particular, and I'm a sucker for anything related to vampires, Lost Boys, Near Dark, Dracula, every version of it. Like some of my favorite stuff out there. Am I correct in assuming that vampires are like a big deal to you?
Well, I love the Near Dark reference. No one mentions Near Dark these days, and they should.
An
Catherine Bigelow,
underappreciated movie, man.
Catherine Bigelow, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm a huge vampire fan. I think Kolchak the Night Stalker, the one that had the vampire in it, and Salem's Lot when I was a kid. The miniseries with David Soul, they grabbed me when I was a kid, and so I was surrounded by so many great vampire novels and movies and TV shows that was my first sort of monster. But they also, the thing about vampires is there's so many different iterations of what you got. The karate vampires, you've got the sexy vampires, you've got your classic Bram Stoker's vampire. And there's, with zombies, you either have the voodoo ones, the ones that run fast, or the ones that run slow. That's basically what you got with zombies. They're just really, really nimble, and they're smart, and they have to be a lot of different things in order to seduce you in. And I always thought that psychological play made them great predators. So,
yeah. Oh, I always wanted to be a vampire, but without the curse. That's probably one of the reasons why I think Blade is so cool, even though he still has a little bit of that curse in there.
He's a daywalker. So
he is a daywalker. I love Blade's such a great movie. I'm so jealous that you were actually there. I'm just like
every day
in the presence of a legend right now, yo. Like this is awesome. I'm going to be watching it, looking for you next time I see it. I'm going to go.
It's quick. It's so quick. It's so quick. But I see me.
Yeah.
That's the thing, that I see me. There I am over there.
I got a buddy who's in Terminator Genesis, and I have never seen him. And he'll even point him out. I'm like, what?
Yeah,
what are you talking about? Dude, that's a mark on the TV, man.
Exactly.
So how did the idea originate for Killadelphia?
It's funny. It's one of those ideas that sort of stayed with me over the years. and took a while to sort of gestate. When Jason Sean Alexander, who illustrates the book, we started going to dinner. I got an assignment to interview him for an art book, and found out that we lived a mile and a half from each other. So after we had a good time with the interview, we just started going to dinner together. And I would pitch him my really bad ideas, and he would pitch me his really bad ideas, and we would just have fun, just denying each other the opportunity to work together. And then one night, while he was drinking whiskey, I pitched him Killadelphia, and he's like, "Hey, I think I like that." And I thought it was the whiskey talking until the next morning when he said, "That vampire thing with the presidents, have you written that down?" And I said, "No, but I can." And as I was writing it out, I just thought about all the different influences from, like I said, the Kolchak the Night Stalker to, it was a TV show in the 90s called Homicide: Life on the Street that I loved. And just a bunch of different things in American history, and trying to find the perfect antagonist that I thought that had purpose. I love antagonists who aren't just trying to kill. There's something under the killing, like Darth Vader is a Sith, and the Jedi are the enemy philosophically to what they're trying to accomplish. And John Adams, was there at the beginning of the formation of America, the signing of the Declaration of the Constitution. And he wants America to be what it was, not necessarily what it is, which may, in his eyes, logically could be a noble idea. Unfortunately, once you're a vampire, you don't have a choice. You got to follow. So it was a lot of different things, and we put it together, and it seems like it's working.
Well, it's returning next month. FOC for the new issue is actually this Monday, so everybody get your pre-orders in. And this is a big deal because you got Spawn and Savage Dragon involved. Like, how did all of that come about? That had to take some kind of corralling together, right?
From the beginning, because Jason had worked with, had done a run on Spawn as an illustrator, and he was like, "Man, it would be cool to get Spawn in the book." And I'd be like, "Yeah, you can get Spawn. I surely could come up with a story." And I think he bugged Todd McFarlane, the great Todd McFarlane, so much that Todd was like, "Yeah, go ahead." And I had came up with a story, and I pitched it to Todd, and he dug it, and we put it together. But great honor having Spawn there. I think it was a surprise to everybody at the end of issue 30 on that last page when you see Spawn. It's like, what the hell? But yeah, Spawn, it's Savage Dragon, Blackula from the movies, and Dracula as well will be in this arc. So a lot of fun, a lot of fun to see these people come to Philadelphia and these monsters and play in our space.
It's going to be cool to see Jason Sean Alexander portray all of those characters, including Savage Dragon. That's got to be a gnarly take. I'm sure you've seen it. I bet it looks awesome.
Yes. Well, I've seen his work on it. This is a bawdier, more aggressive Savage Dragon than Chicago Savage Dragon. So, but it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of jokes. I think Spawn fit almost perfectly. Blackula fits perfectly because of what he is. And then people would ask, how does Savage Dragon, like the Chicago cop who happens to be a dragon, like how does that work? I was like, you'll have to see. And I think I said that because I wasn't sure myself, but we figured something out I think is cool.
Can you tell us a little bit about the upcoming Blackula project that you're working on?
Well, it's done. I mean, it's Blackula's been out since January. It's not necessarily an adaptation of the movie. It's more of I'm bringing him into the modern era. The great thing with vampires is they can be in a tomb for 100 years and pop out, and it's like, it's Tuesday. And so I think, and Jason does the art as well. I think the greatest thing about it, the thing that I'm most proud of, is we're able to sort of recap for people who weren't around in 1972 to see the film or haven't seen the film, to sort of get that in the DNA of this story without stopping this story in order to say, hey, this happened or that happened. So really proud of that book as well.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to check that out. I didn't realize it was already out. That totally slipped under my radar then.
The hardcover is coming in the spring, but yes.
Okay, nice. Of course, I remember being young and I would check out every monster book I could find in the school library or in the public library. And I remember the first time I ever saw an image of Blackula, and I was like, I gotta get a hold of this movie. It took me years to get a copy of it. Found it at a VHS store, and I loved Blackula. Then I watched the second one, which has
Scream,
Pam
Blackula,
Grier.
Scream.
Exactly, right.
And Richard Lawson, yes.
Yeah, I love some of the elements that were in there, and it would be cool to see that kind of that idea, but done better, a little, not better, but better.
No,
but
better is the word. Better is the word. Yes,
exactly. Oh, I love that dude that played Drag. He had the coolest
William Marshall
and everything. Yeah,
when he would become, when he went feral or would become, we went from Prince Mamuwalde to Blackula. His afro would get bigger, and his eyebrows. It's like he'd almost become a jungle cat.
Yeah, right. It's very much like Werewolf of London, like the old school Universal one.
Yes, which I actually watched the other night. So,
excellent. Yeah, you're in the holiday spirit then, right?
It's the greatest thing about living in LA is you can go and see all of those movies in a theater this time of year.
I live in Alabama.
Dawn of the Dead, The Changeling.
You
know, all the Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead. Like this is the last 3 weeks of my life. Tonight I'm going to see Silence of the Lambs.
Oh, that's so cool. That's so cool. The chances down here in Alabama of seeing Werewolf of London on a theater probably pretty slim for me, but I don't know. We got a pretty cool artsy town. And
you got a great football team. You got a great college football team. So
that's not my football team. We don't. Okay. I'm for the other side.
All right.
I'm not a big fan. But thank you. I appreciate that. You're. So everybody appreciates the Roll Tide and the War Eagle out there.
Yes.
With your television work, with comic work, there are obviously two different mediums. How does one differentiate from another? And is there one that you find more fulfilling?
I mean, television sustains me, so there's that. But I think the greatest thing about writing comics is it's pure and it's connected to the idealistic part of me that always wanted to be a writer. Like I can sit down and write a comic book without a whole lot of boundaries or rules attached to it. Like I'm just writing Killadelphia from my head. In television, you got to go through a sea of people. You have a network, you have a studio, you have other writers, you have other producers. Everybody weighs in. And so a lot of times, by the time you get to the end of the journey and the thing that ends up on television, it could look far different than the thing that was in your mind originally. So from a creative place, I think the way that I've maintained some sense of ownership over the writing is by writing comics and being able to just stay in a place where I could have a direct relationship with the reader. And that comes directly from me.
Yeah. Oh, that makes total sense. When you were working on Winning Time, being you said you were a Sixers fan, right?
I was, Dr. J. That's why Dr. J is there.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Did it like make you feel dirty having to like write for the Lakers?
Basically? Not at all. When I was growing up, and that was my period, that 1979, 1980 period was where I started to love professional basketball.
Okay.
And that was right around when Larry Bird and Magic Johnson played in college. And it was almost like the story was continuing in the pros. And even though the Lakers beat my Sixers every year, seemingly, with the exception of one, the 82-83 year, you had to respect them. The games were great. Magic Johnson was great. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was great. Michael Cooper was great. So even if they were the bad guys, it was sort of like in Star Wars. Like, yeah, you could dig Luke and the Rebellion and Obi-Wan and all of that, but you got to say Vader, there's something to this Vader guy too. So for me, there was always a sense of respect, and you almost enjoy that the bad guys are as good as they are,
Yeah.
So
yeah, I'm a big New York Yankees fan because baseball is like my number one. Oh, nice. And then like most movies, they're like the bad guys, right? But always. you got to respect them.
They had the most money. They had Hal Stein, the Steinbrenners. So
yeah, absolutely, it's cool stuff. Do you have any advice to anybody out there? Because I think you're a pretty successful person. So do you have any advice on somebody trying to make it, whether as a writer or a producer or whatever they're trying to do? Any keys to success?
Yeah, I think a lot of times what Hollywood sells you on to becoming a writer is really understanding the rules of writing, which is a big part of it. I think another part of it that sometimes gets lost in translation is developing your voice. There's a story that a writer can write that I can't write. That's your value. Your value is being able to tell the story that only you can tell, or tell the story in a way that you would tell it that's different than how I would tell it. And that's your currency. A lot of times if you're trying to staff on a show, showrunners, executive producers, they're looking for a voice. They're looking for somebody that can complement what they do. They're not looking for somebody who's just technically proficient. You take that over nothing, but you're looking for somebody that can bring something additive to the table. And then if you're thinking about, like, when you go see a Jordan Peele movie, you can tell a Jordan Peele movie. Nobody can write a Jordan Peele movie like Jordan Peele. That's a thing. John Carpenter has a voice. This person has a voice. That person has a voice. That thing of developing that really comes down to developing you and what you believe in, what you feel, how you see the world. That's as valuable as understanding interior, exterior, act 1, act 2, act 3. Those things need to kind of work in concert. And I don't think in today's world, because movies, not to be the old guy or the Scorsese guy, but I think because we live in a world where movies have become content, and they're not like in the 60s, 70s, 80s, a little more in the 60s and 70s. I think Jaws probably changed everything, but you had so many different types of movies that would come, and seemingly every weekend there was a new type of movie or a new thing that was happening. If you think of Wes Craven, George Romero, Tobe Hooper, Cronenberg, all of these guys, they all had different ways of doing horror. And the movies that we love, come from all of these different types of imagination. It wasn't so much a formula. It was guys who were passionate about something and telling their story in their way. They were visionaries. And I think we need more of those in order to get the type of thing that gets people really excited about movies again.
Oh man, thank you so much for sharing that. That was like awesome to hear, because I 100% agree with you. I like what you were saying about finding your voice, being authentic. Who are you? What do you believe in? What do you bring to the table? And those names you listed, like the Mount Rushmore of my directors right there. So that's absolutely fantastic. We got Killadelphia coming back next month, FOC this Monday, Alice Cooper #1 in shops right now. You got a Luke Cage book coming connected to Gang War, right?
I do.
Yeah.
I've just been yelled at that I have to get the next script in within the next 24 hours. I do. It's the beginning of Gang War, I think. Luke Cage is the mayor of New York, and he's trying to be a politician, but he's got that thing in him to want to fight and save people and, be a hero for hire. And, well, a hero now, not so much for hire, but, he's got instincts on both sides to just jump into the fray, but now he's also part of the system. So, how will he deal with it? That's the question.
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting take, because they put that character in a very cool place for that character to show a lot of growth and reflection. And
big time from where he started. He started with the headband, from that point to being mayor. You would never thought the headband guy was going to be mayor one day.
Yeah, no kidding. Is there anything else coming up that you want to talk about?
I've got a horror podcast that's dropping November the 15th called Run Fool. It's I'm basically telling really scary bedtime stories.
Oh, cool.
And the trailer drops Halloween, the 31st. There you go.
Perfect timing. All right. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Barnes, for joining us. I really appreciate you taking your time. Everybody go check out those books. Killadelphia is coming back. And now that I've reread book 1, I'm about to continue right through the rest of that series. So thank you, everybody. Thanks for watching. Stay